Okay, people. So I checked out You People, right? This is the new film. Well, it's a new Netflix joint, right? And I heard about this film last year. It was early last year, man, because Andrew Schultz, Andrew Schultz was talking about it. And Schultz is a funny motherfucker, right? So yeah, I was like, all right, I need to check this out for sure, because yeah, it's like obviously, obviously need to check it. So people, that's exactly what I did, right? I gave it a watch, and it's directed. Well, it's the directorial debut, right? From Kenya Barris. He also co-writes with Jonah Hill. The film is produced by Jonah Hill and Kenya Barris. It's executive produced by Andy Berman, Michelle Deschamps, Matt Dines, E. Brian Dobbins, Alison Goodwin, Carice M. Hewitt, uh, David Hyman, and Hal Rothstein. Oh, and Kevin Misha also produces the film. Daniel Tannenbaum handles the music. Mark Daring Powell, cinematography. Jamie Nelson edits the piece. Ben Harris and Alison Jones handle the casting. Maxine Shepherd, production design. Set decoration was Beth Wookie. Michelle Cole, costume design. Hair and makeup is Erin Walters, Terry Velasquez Owen, Maria Vargas, Chelsea Orduno, Stacey Morris, Tracy Mackey, Jacqueline Knowlton, Brian Kinney, Yvetra Grantham, and Alison Blackberry. And our cast, well, it's starring Jonah Hill, right? He plays Ezra Cohen. We've got, hold on a second. All right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna jump to this because I don't have the full names. Yeah. His mum, Shelley Cohen, is played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and his dad, Arnold Cohen, is played by David Duchovny. Now, then we've got Lauren London as Amira Muhammad, right? The love interest. Her dad, Akbar Muhammad, is played by Eddie Murphy, and her mother, Fatima Muhammad, is played by Nia Long, right? We've got Omar Muhammad, Amira's brother, played by Travis Bennett, and EJ Muhammad, her uncle, played by Mike Epps. Oh, I also forgot Molly Gordon plays Liza Cohen, Ezra's sister. Okay. We got Dion Cole. He plays Demetrius, the wedding planner. There's some others. There's Bubby Cohen, Ezra's grandmother, played by Rhea Perlman, and Avi Cohen, played by Andrew Schultz, Ezra's cousin, who I don't believe in the film that's ever mentioned. I don't believe it is. I might be wrong, but yeah. Yeah, it's one of those odd things, you know. Who else do we have? Um, got Becca, played by Andrea Savage. I think she's the other wedding planner. Mr. Greenbaum, played by Elliot Gould. There is Sheila, played by Layla Anthony. Tiffany, played by Young Miami. Renee, played by Kajaja Hack. Isaac, played by Brian Greenberg. Danny, played by Jordan Fristman. Don Wood, played by Matt Walsh. Kim Glassman, played by Emily Arlock. Mr. Greenwald, played by Hal Linden. Mrs. Greenwald, played by Winnie Holtzman. Dr. Green, played by Richard Benjamin. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably our main group of people. I believe it is. Yeah, I would say so. Okay. There is a cameo from DJ Drama. He's up in the place as himself. And Kenya Barris is on the airplane. Yeah, I would say that is everyone. You know, the gist of the film is this. Okay. Right. We follow a new couple and their families who find themselves examining modern love and family dynamics amidst. I'm going to start that again, you know? The film follows a new couple and their families who find themselves examining modern love and family dynamics amidst clashing cultures, societal expectations, and generational differences. There you go. So, right, as I said, right, Schultz talked about it. The cast is light, right? It's a fat ass cast, man. So I was like, yo, let's go. And then the film opens. The film opens, right? And we're hearing this conversation. And at first, you're not quite sure what it is, right? But then after, like, opening images and stuff, we've got, oh, I forgot. Ezra's best friend Mo is played by Sam J. Yeah, I think I forgot that one, right? So it opens with Mo and Ezra sitting talking into microphones. So you're just like, oh, they're doing that thing, right? They're doing that thing. You know what I mean? Where a TV show or a film will throw in podcasts because it's so cool. So it's just like, oh, we're doing our podcast. Oh, look at us. Right. So they're doing this podcast and they're talking about, well, it's talking about Obama. Right. And it's a dumb conversation. Like, the conversation doesn't really make any sense. And there's no context to the conversation. Right? So at least if you started off, well, for me, Obama was that cool president because, and then be like, yo, do you ever think he did coke? Yeah. Then you get into it. Boom. It works better. Right? But what we get is just some like, oh, they're trying to be funny. This ain't funny. Right? To me. Now, comedy is very the thing with this, right? This is a comedy. Comedy is so subjective that what works for me might not work for someone else. You feel me? So with something like this, these are just my motherfucking thoughts, right? Because, yeah, it didn't really vibe with me, right? Didn't really like the film. Is pretty slick, the way it looks, all of that. But yeah, there was just these things that just didn't really work, right? There's a scene with Ezra. He's at work. He's what's he? He's like a financial advisor, stock kind of person. He does. I feel he says that what he does. Well, he says he manages money, right? But it's one of them jobs. So he's been doing it a while. It's not his first day, but his boss walks in and he's like, there he is, like Ezra with the big swinging dick, and Ezra's like says something like, "Yeah, there you are with your big swinging dick as well." And the boss is just like, "What are you doing?" And they get into this whole thing of how Ezra can't, initiate a proper conversation and all of that kind of thing, which was weird because he's been working there for a while. It's not like this is their first interaction, but it's played like they ain't spoken before. So it's just like, what's going on with this? Right? But it was just one of those instances of, let's try and put this funny thing in here, but it doesn't make any sense, you know? Right? The film, it's going, you know what I mean? Look, right, as a synopsis says, they're trying to look at these different cultures, right, and societal expectations, right, the generational differences, because it comes down to the parents, obviously, right? So you have these clashes and all of this, but it's like Harry and Meghan, right? Where it's just like, yo, your family is fucking racist, right? So you prep people. And if you don't, you're an arsehole, right? You're an arsehole. So yeah, there's just these weird things when they come around the family and be like, yo, listen, my dad, he'd have wanted me to date another Muslim, right? Another black guy. So it's gonna be a bit weird, right? It's gonna be a bit weird. That's what you say. And then be like, he would say to her, yo, my parents, they look, they always think they're in touch, right? And want to seem like they're doing the right thing, but they're gonna say some crazy ass shit, right? They don't think it's offensive, but what they're saying is crazy, right? There would be those conversations. And then there should be scenes of the kids going, yo, stop with the bullshit, right? Just stop it. This is the person I'm gonna marry, and I don't need you doing the shit. You one more time, we ain't coming over again, right? Something, but it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It's kind of playing like something you might see early 80s, well, late 80s, probably early 90s. You know what I mean? Before people were like, oh, yeah, we we care about race. Yeah, you shouldn't be racist. You know what I mean? It's one of them ones, right? Because there's this scene on, between Mo and Ezra, another of their podcast scenes, and like Moses, like, oh, I don't think black and white people could ever be friends, right? And breaks it all down and all of this. And Ezra's just like, but we're friends. And that was the big thing with that scene. It makes no sense because They are friends, call each other best friends. And you're like, that conversation would have happened ages ago, would have happened ages ago, right? The fact that it came up at that point makes no sense. No, like if Mo had said it and be like, oh yeah, oh shit, it's getting real. We've spoken about this so many times, right? Now, you know what I mean? But it's not, it's like, this is a shock. And you're just like, what the fuck is this? This is so weird. This is so crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's odd. It's an odd one. Ain't gonna lie. Right? And there's just all these things that go like the date, the first fucking date. She ain't gonna say something about what the fuck he's wearing. That was some like, and here's the thing, right? Because he's just like, oh, you should be able to, yeah, I'm not gonna judge you on what you're wearing, blah blah blah, because you can wear whatever you want, which is, you know, that's real. Like the things you like. Who gives a fuck? But that doesn't mean you can't have jokes, right? You can't have jokes. Obviously, there's jokes, man. He looks like a fucking rejected Care Bear. You know what I'm saying? That's like there's jokes, right? But there's none. There's nothing, which is just, it's weird, right? It's weird. And the way they meet, it doesn't then show why they want to date each other. Right? That's the weird thing, right? He gets in the wrong car. And there's that whole be like, oh, but then it's just like it just rolls to showing different scenes of them continuing to meet up and all of that. And it's just like, but why? Right? Why? Because it's got like him out with the white girl from the wedding, the Jewish girl. His mum's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Right? I mean, firstly, why did she want to date him? Right? That's something that's not saying she shouldn't, but it's just like, you know, when they sit down and be like, oh man, all my friends have said you're really cool, or something, but there's gonna be a reason, you know what I mean? But he's just like, oh, I don't even, you know, he's not even trying to make an effort to really get to know them, right? So then you're thinking, okay, so he meets this girl. There's gonna be a big thing why he's then now gonna be connected with her, but we see nothing. We eventually see them kind of on dates, not really, but it's just like, okay, why? You know, it's yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing because it's just like, huh. And man, what we get is, you know, some different situations of them together. Like the matching trainers is just a bit like, yo, we're matching trainers, man. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. Like, but yeah, there's so much corniness in here, you know. I would have expected to see the Jolly Green Giant. I don't know if that, you know what I mean? You know, the sweet corn, right? Jelly. I don't know how if that's a global thing, but anyway, right? Yeah, the jokes are like that. Jokes are like that in this film. Like, she's like, well, there's a bit where she's like, oh, I'm on my period. I'm feeling a bit off. And he's just like, oh yeah, um, I'm a bit weird as well. I haven't had a period in 35 years. Oh, there might be. And it's just like, oh, that's horrible. It's a terrible joke, right? There's cliches galore. The basketball situation, which it starts off with where it doesn't make any sense where it goes, because it's just like he lied about playing in a park, right? With a park that supposedly doesn't exist, which is just like, if you play, you play. It doesn't matter if you play in a park, you play in a hall, but it's just like the lie made no sense after then what we get, but we get what you'd expect. You know what I mean? As soon as that scene starts, you know what's going to happen, right? There's the barbershop thing again, these moments which are just like, okay, this isn't really original, but boom, right? There's so many things that we watch that aren't necessarily original, but we get a different take, which is the thing, right? It's that's the enjoyable thing, this funny new take on something or new slant. You'd be like, yo, I've never thought about it like that. Okay, let's go. But that's not what this is, you know? And all the things, and listen, ain't gonna lie, all the things that Akbar don't like about Ezra, you gotta admit, right? When you turn up to meet someone's parents and you're kind of dressing like that, expect to be cussed, right? You gotta expect to be cussed, you know what I mean? You know, say, like, if your friends are talking about coke, then yeah. And when he's just like, well, I didn't invite you, that's kind of weird, right? Because if she invited his mom and sister, then it's a bit like, you kind of need to do the same, right? Kind of need to do the same. So it's these weird kind of instances that don't really make any sense, don't really mesh. But here's the end, right? Listen, you know what's going to happen at the end, but it doesn't make any sense, right? Now, here's the big thing, because I've been in situations, right? I remember being dating this girl, and her name began with a K, right? And her aunt was just like, oh, if you have a kid, you could be KKK. And I remember looking at this woman being like, what? And then my girl pulls me away, and I'm just like, yo, does she understand how fucking racist that is? Right? And I'll be like, listen, keep her away from me, because I'm gonna go off on her, right? Because that's some bullshit. Right? You say the thing. You know what I mean? You address the thing, and we talked about that. Like, it was pretty much over after that and some other racist shit that happened on that trip, right? But it's like, you talk about the thing, right? And they don't ever seem to address the situations. And you get the bit where it's just like, oh yeah, this is what's happening. And you're just like, wait, whoa. That's gonna be the thing, right? If you dig each other, that shouldn't be the thing, right? Talk about it, work something out. That shouldn't be the thing. I have to say, I remember watching the beginning though, right? And we see this collage of dates, and then it's like 6 months later, right? 6 months later, and he's gonna propose. I'm like, who proposes after 6 months? Then I was a bit like, oh, yeah, I can't really talk. But I'm just like, oh shit, I'm planning to propose to my chick, right? Then be like, yeah, I mean, it's been longer than 6 months, but still though, right? Some people might say it's quick. So I'm gonna be like, I can't really talk on that. But we need to see the reasons, right? This is the thing I want to see, the reasons why shit is happening. And we're not seeing those reasons. That's why it gets crazy, right? And then the ending being like, okay, so you go from that to that. That's a crazy one motherfucking 80, right? That doesn't make any sense. But it's one of them films, right? Now, as I said at the start, comedy is a very subjective thing. I didn't laugh, right? I don't find it funny. I just found it a little played out. But that is me, because I don't like shows like Blackish and all those ish shows. I don't find them funny. I didn't really find Girl Trip funny, right? But I think if you like those shows and that, Girls Trip as a film, then this will play with you, right? I think this will be your kind of jam, you know? So yeah, if you're enjoying those kind of things, barbershop, you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing, right? Which when you think about, right, the projects that Barris has worked on, coming to America. Whoo! He wrote that. And when I say coming to, I mean the number 2, right? The sequel, because I hated that. Right? He wrote it, right? So if you enjoyed that, if you laughed at that and that was, you know what I mean? Then yeah, that's the kind of thing, right? That's his thing. He wrote Barbershop The Next Cut. He actually wrote Girls Trip, right? So if you enjoy those films, right, the remake of Cheaper by the Dozen, then this will be your jam, you know? So I think that's like the best way to kind of sum this one up, right? Because I think it will work for people on that level, you know? He did. Now, one thing I really enjoyed that Barris has been involved in, Intergalactic, right? He was an executive producer on that show. That's such a great fucking film, right? If you haven't watched Intergalactic, people, you need to watch Intergalactic. Intergalactic is fire. Love that shit. So yeah, that's my take on this one, right? I think a lot of people will enjoy it. So, you know what I mean? But this is just my views, man. Like, this is what I do, right? So I give you my takes on things. You can look at, all the things I've spoken about over the years, and you'd be like, I align with that. So maybe I won't like it. Right. But yeah, just think about what kind of comedy you like, right? And the comedic films that you enjoy. And that will play into if you're gonna, vibe with this. So yeah, You People, it's out now on Netflix.